Good afternoon. My name is Andre Lindsay. I'm from John F. Kennedy High School, and my question is: what are your thoughts on increasing college retention for urban school students and urban districts?
College retention once kids are in college?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Andre. That is a huge issue, and as I mentioned, our community college, where about 37% of Kalamazoo Promise recipients are going, have really been struggling with that. Community colleges have innovated in a lot of ways. Our community college set up something called a Student Success Center, where every kid coming in now, they are tested and they're assigned mandatory tutoring in certain issues, a mentor, which is very important. I think one of the big college retention issues at the community college is a lot of these students are people who did not have anybody in their family who went to college. There was no one really to tell them about college. This idea that you have to go to the bookstore and a single book might cost $100. And you have to register for your own classes, and there's no bell, and you're not going to get a locker. These very basic things that most of us who come from families where someone went to college know. Kids didn't know that, and that was a big barrier. So I think there's a lot that can be done with creating that college-going culture, that awareness of college visits, visiting with people who maybe went to your high school and then went off to college and are coming back and telling you what they learned. The number one thing that we hear from those kids who are coming back and talking to the middle school and high school kids is, I wish I'd read more. I should have read more, because I have to read a lot in college, and my reading could be better. So I think those kinds of things are important, and then the schools themselves really need to bring a lot of resources to bear to support students who are struggling through that first year. The first year is the big year of drop-off. It's really, really tough for some kids to make that transition. And it's a question of resources. It's expensive to do that, but it's something that the community can't just say, we're going to support our K through 12 system and then send kids off to college. The Kalamazoo Promise and programs like it are not a go to college program. They're a go to college, be successful, finish some kind of certificate, degree, et cetera, and then go on from there. So it's important to focus on college success and retention as well as just getting to college.
Thanks for being here. I have an equity question, and then I have another really short question. As far as equity is concerned, when you talk about up to 130 credits, students who need remediation, to me, their credits are going to be used up with remediation, which means they're going to run out before the students who don't need the remediation. So has that become an issue? And then my second part is, how is this program, the good news being spread besides through your book? So is there a marketing that goes on to spread the news? Those are my questions.
Okay, the first question, I don't have a good answer for you, and I've just written it down because I'd like to go back and ask. I'm not sure how the remediation credits count toward the 130 credits. And I have a feeling that they may not. I think there has been a special payment to the local community college to pay for those credits, because the principle of the program is that they're going to have enough money available for kids to complete a 130 credit course of study. And of course, as you point out, remediation is going to take away from that. So there is somebody I can ask about that, and you can email me and I will answer your question. In terms of how the word's being spread, this is actually one of the problems with having anonymous donors. The closest thing we have to a spokesperson is Dr. Brown, the executive director of the Kalamazoo Promise, but the Kalamazoo Promise organization only gives money to scholarships and funds to, count them to, administrative people, Dr. Brown and the Kalamazoo Promise administrator. That's it. It is a lean and mean operation, and that's because it is so simple. It is this first dollar structure. So there's no money for marketing. There's no money for going out and attracting people to Kalamazoo to come use the Promise. There's no money for supporting community colleges in helping serve struggling students better. All of that really has to come from the community. There's a Kalamazoo Promise website. It's really interesting. There was a lot of media coverage when the program was announced in '05, and pretty much all the major media. because it was dramatic and it had those anonymous donors and all kinds of, exciting angles. But there's been very, very little interest in coming back and finding out what happened. And that's been a source of frustration for me. That's why I'm pulling for Kalamazoo Central in the Obama Race to the Top Commencement Challenge. Somebody may wander back to town and say, how's that Kalamazoo Promise thing working out? There was a big article in People magazine last summer about the very wonderful but very small El Dorado Promise in El Dorado, Arkansas, and which was modeled directly on the Kalamazoo Promise. And the donor, the man who funded it, who's the head of something called Murphy Oil Company, they own all the gas stations for Walmart. So he has a lot of money. He paid for it, but here's a person, a face, someone to interview. Why did you do it? And I think that has been one reason why the coverage has been a little less than I would have guessed it would be.
Good afternoon. Alma Jones, Cuyahoga Community College. Thank you for your presentation. It was quite informative. My question is, how would the Kalamazoo project help the Cleveland School District? And if so, do we plan on implementing the program with our district? Thank you.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question, but I think that any district, I think, I consult to with a lot of communities that are thinking about promise-type programs, and what I always tell them is that first you have to figure out what you're trying to accomplish. We weren't able to go through this logical process in Kalamazoo, but communities are now. What is the problem you're trying to address? Is it that not enough kids from your high schools are going to college? Is it that your population in your urban core is shrinking? Is it that the school district is characterized by greater and greater concentrations of low-income kids? What is the issue that you most want to address? And then you develop a program that helps you get at that issue. So if your problem is, there's a town right outside of Chicago called Hammond, Indiana, and their problem was nobody wanted to live in Hammond. A lot of people worked there, but they didn't want to live there. So the city of Hammond started a program called College Bound, and only the kids of the homeowners get a scholarship to college. And a lot of people will say, well, that is just unfair. And yes, it is unfair, but the city decided that homeownership was its #1 goal, so they were going to reward homeownership with a scholarship program. And that's how they set up their program. It's an example of an extreme case of figuring out what your issue is and then setting up a program that addresses it. So for example, if what you are concerned about is kids fleeing the urban school district for the suburban school districts, you would develop a program that only benefits kids in the urban district. If what you really want are residents, you might have a program where you send the kids of any residents, whether they go to public or private school, to college. So you have to start with the issue, then develop the structure of the program, and then find the money. And I know everybody wants to worry about the money up front, but most communities with long philanthropic histories have companies, have philanthropists, have foundations, have people who really care about their young people. And I'm optimistic in most communities, in Cleveland among them, that with the proper planning and community alignment and engagement and buy-in by all the stakeholders, that a program could be put together. What it would look like, I don't know, because that's something that needs to grow out of your own community. Thank you.
Today at the City Club, we have been listening to a Friday Forum featuring Dr. Michelle Miller Adams, author of The Power of a Promise, Education and Economic Renewal in Kalamazoo. Thank you, Dr. Miller Adams. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This forum is now adjourned.